Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Chris Maloney back with you for another edition of CWN Weekly, episode number 20, coming to you on Wednesday, December the 30th, 2020, of course. And unfortunate news, of course, this past Boxing Day, which is going to be the theme of the show. I tell you this, so episode 20, December 30th, I had all these plans to do, basically a 2020 year in review, 2021 predictions as far as what I thought was going to happen. Obviously, the news of the week, Canadian independent wrestling, mixed martial arts, all that sort of jazz, all the same stuff I normally do on this show. And then news of December 26th hit, and it's weird because it hit me probably worse than I expected it to. And when I say that, no disregard to, some of the talent that, has passed away this year. But the fact is, when it comes down to it, when you think about the Owen Harts and you think about the Eddie Guerreros, and to me personally, I think about the Ultimate Warrior, Brodie Lee, to me, was one of those guys, the more I thought about his character, about his persona, about his perseverance, the more it hit me. And then you read all the tributes that had happened online as far as Twitter and Instagram, and obviously the big stories that took place as far as the promotions websites went, the news outlets went, and it hit me probably harder than expected. And it's in saying that, obviously you can see the graphics are in purple. With regards to the Dark Order, I've got the Elite t-shirt behind me. I've got a Maple Leafs baseball hat that is my wife's that I will never wear, but in honor of Brodie Lee, Jon Huber, I've decided to put that up there, as well as NHL 20 for the Xbox One, which has Austin Matthews on the cover. Again, not a Leafs fan. I'm a Sens fan, diehard Ottawa Senators fan. But the fact is, a lot of the pictures that you see of Brodie Lee, Mr. Jon Huber, Leafs hat rocking, and Kevin Owens, of all people, had put out a picture today of him being at the Winnipeg airport and seeing a moose. And it was like a statue of a moose, and he just had to get a picture of it. So anyways, with that being said, obviously news broke on Boxing Day. Brodie Lee passes away. Rest in peace, Brodie Lee. Jon Huber, 1979 to 2020, AllEliteWrestling.com. The All Elite Wrestling family is heartbroken. In an industry filled with good people, Jon Huber was exceptionally respected and beloved in every way. A fierce and captivating talent, a thoughtful mentor, and simply a very kind soul that starkly contradicted his persona as Mr. Brodie Lee. Jon's love for his wife Amanda and children Brodie and Nolan was evident to all of us who were fortunate to spend time with him, and we send our love and support to his beautiful family today and always. Jon's popularity among his peers and influence on the wrestling world was worldwide and transcended AEW. So the loss will be felt by many for a long time. We were privileged at AEW to call Jon Huber a brother, a friend, and one of our own. So again, my thoughts and prayers are with him, his family, his kids, the AEW, roster, so to speak. I know all the tributes I've seen online have absolutely been amazing, absolutely stunning. In saying that, I've done what I can behind me there to tribute how I can to the late Jon Huber. You see the Cody Funko Pop, the Kenny Omega Funko Pop, the Leaf stuff going on, the Slam Wrestling book by Greg Oliver with Kenny Omega on it as well, the ROH fanny pack of all things that I picked up last summer at the Mattamy Athletic Center, formerly known as Maple Leaf Gardens. And of course, I've got the SSB, Stu Grayson, as well as Evil Uno t-shirt going on tonight. So this will not be a regular show, I tell you that. This will be basically a tribute to the one and only Jon Huber, Brodie Lee. I will follow it up with relevant wrestling news for the week, which was important. And then at the very end of the episode, I was privileged, honored to have the one and only Marc Mandrake join me earlier today for an interview. And, he was like, we'll go 10, 15 minutes. But the end of the interview, we ended up going 27 minutes together there. Marc Mandrake was a name I recognized back in the day from the Ontario independent wrestling scene. Him and his wife moved to Florida, for greater pastures, so to speak. But anytime, back in 2006-ish, I think, anytime I had the honor to speak with him, to just say hello, to watch one of his matches, he was always courteous and grateful. And just, I'll tell you this, he hasn't changed in 14, 15 years. Still a very nice guy. And, thoughts and prayers are with him and his wife. The reason I bring up Marc Mandrake, me personally, is because of the fact when I think back to my original podcast I did way back in the mid 2000s, which was OWR Ontario Wrestling Recap. I had the honor of interviewing him and his wife. Danielle is her real name, but Ferrari was her gimmick name, so to speak, her wrestling name. And I had both of them on the show at the same time, and that was 2006. I got to see if I can find the interview because I want to see how much I've gained as far as confidence goes in doing my interviews since 2006. But like I said, I had the honor to interview them back in 2006, and when the news broke that Brodie Lee, Jon Huber, had passed away, to me, one of the first people I had thought of was Marc Mandrake and his wife. A reason for it: if you go onto Facebook, there was a picture that was relevant to me of Mandrake and his wife Danielle just hanging out, and they're hanging out beside this guy named Jon Huber. Obviously Luke Harper, Brodie Lee. But to me, it was interesting. It was unique because I was like, here you see a guy who's like 6'5", 275 pounds, this beast of a man, this monster, just sitting there chilling, just like a regular family man. With Marc Mandrake and Danielle Ferrari. And to me, it was kind of like, there's more to a wrestler than we know as fans. And simply put, that's all I am as a fan. Even if I was a journalist, and this will play in probably about 5-10 minutes, but even if I was a journalist, I'd still be kind of like, hey, that's really cool, You get to see the man outside of the character, the wrestling character, of course. But the fact is, with all the tributes and everything that came down, it was absolutely amazing to hear about Jon Huber as a performer, as a family man, as a father, as a husband, as a human being. I mean, there isn't a thing I saw since Boxing Day, which would have been Saturday, and now it being Wednesday, of any negativity except for one basically butthead. And I will touch base on that, like I said, about 10 minutes or so. But the fact is, when it comes down to the character of Jon Huber, as a performer as well as a human being, the fact is, when it comes down to it, we should all try to adhere to being even half the man that he was. You will hear the interview with Marc Mandrake, just roughly about 20 minutes from now. But the fact is, when it comes down to it, he shared some stuff off the air with me that just kind of made me smile, just again, talking about the character of who Jon Huber was outside of the ring. And you can see it, through the tributes and this and that. There was one that was posted today, and it's Matt Hardy, and he's sitting there, he's getting stitched up. And it was somebody who's doing a video, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, Huber comes in and he like photobombs, but it was on video. It was like one of the coolest things in the world, but it just, you can see what he was like. Mandrake shares a story about, I think this made the air, about his wedding, and Huber's just personality coming out at Marc Mandrake's own wedding, and it was, to me, it makes me smile, and it's exactly what I want to have Marc Mandrake on the show, just to hear some personal stories and remember that outside of the character that we saw on TV, there was a human being who passionately loved his family, passionately loved his friends, his fans, and obviously his kids. So, again, like I said, this is a Brodie Lee tribute show going on here. But like I said, we'll do an interview with Marc Mandrake that was pre-recorded earlier today in about 20 minutes time. But I just want to get to some of the stuff that was put out there this week. So WWE released their own statement with regards to Brodie's passing. Obviously referring to him as Luke Harper. WWE superstars and legends remember Jon Huber, so name dropped him there. Everywhere from Triple H to Stephanie McMahon to Braun Strowman to Drew McIntyre. Sheamus, Bailey, Adam Edge Copeland, Randy Orton, Natty by Nature, which is obviously Natalia, Florida Man, which is Biggie, Florida Man again, Andrade, Apollo, the list goes on and on and on and on. You've got everybody from Jason Jordan in there to Stu Bennett, Wade Barrett, of course, to Roddy Strong, to Ricochet, to William Regal, to Adam Pearce. Like it continues on, and it's absolutely amazing to see. And that was just one side of the spectrum, so to speak. That was WWE Universe, you know what I mean? That was where he was Luke Harper, the Wyatt family, obviously. And then all of a sudden you see the ROH tributes pour out, the AEW tributes pour out, the independent wrestling community tributes pour out. Everybody from Kevin Bennett, who you've heard me talk about on the show before, and any other show I've ever done. You know, I'm a huge fan of Kevin Bennett, one of my top 2 independent stars here in Canada. I absolutely love. And you hear about him talking about Brodie Lee. Kevin Blackwood did a photo of Brodie Lee and all the proceeds. And that's through, I think, a website called Big Cartel. But all the proceeds are going to Jon Huber's family. You hear about the stuff from CM Punk and Pro Wrestling Tees, which the Elite shirt behind me is from Pro Wrestling Tees. But you hear about all the proceeds from CM Punk's shirts going to the Huber family. It's absolutely amazing, the wrestling community, how much they have basically taken over social media with tributes to Jon Huber, Brodie Lee, so that being said, that, like I said, that was only WB tributes. Bray Wyatt posted something. I'm going to read this because this, to me, when you think of Luke Harper, to me in the WWE, you think obviously Eric Rowan, you think sometimes of Braun Strowman, but to me, it's always going to be Bray Wyatt and Luke Harper. So Wyndham Rotunda and, obviously Jon Huber. But the picture that he posted a few photos, and if you go to CWNonline.ca, you can see some of them there. But this was courtesy of his official Instagram account. And the one is the two of them. And they've got this kid crying in the middle. And Bray looks like he's having the time of his life, just like basically he looks like almost like he's marking out that he made this kid cry. I don't know what the backstory about this kid is. And then Jon Huber is sitting there, Luke Harper, so to speak, and just he's got this puzzled look on his face looking at this kid, but this kid is just crying. And to my knowledge, I don't think it's one of Luke Harper's kids, but I'm not. It might actually be Bray Wyatt's son or something like that. But the fact is, when it comes down to it, it's this terrified look from this kid. It's kind of, you have the characters, but then you have the human beings. You can see the human beings in both of these guys' faces. So Bray Wyatt, Luke Harper, so to speak. But the image alone is absolutely just, it's stunning. But like I said, CWNonline.ca or the official account of Wyndham Rotunda. But Bray goes on to say this. He goes, "You were my best friend, my brother, my partner, my Terry Gordy. We changed this whole game because we refused to do it any way but our way. We were always at our best when we were a team. I think we both knew it. We fought like brothers because we were. I'm so goddamn pissed. This isn't how it's supposed to be. It was supposed to be us, fat, bald, and useless, running Wyatt family spots in high school gyms in our 70s. Where do we go now? What do I know? What do I do knowing I'll never hear your condescending sarcasm as I'm riding high? I miss you so effing much already. I would do anything, just live through our worst moments again. I can't believe you're gone. I'm so sorry, brother. I'm so sorry. You will always be a part of me, whether or I like it or not. Without you, everything is different. I hope Amanda truly knows that I'm here, not just to say it, but because I love them too. I will make sure your son knows the incredible man you were, not the legends people will tell, but the real you that very few people got to see. I promise I'll put him over clean in dark matches when he's old enough, just like I promised. Winky face, I'm hurting so bad. I wish I had the chance to say goodbye, but then again, it's Saturday, and you know what that means. Save me a seat next to you. Wherever you are, that's where I belong. I'll be there in my time. Goodbye forever, Brodie. I love you. Signed Wyndham. So obviously trying to read a statement by Bray Wyatt, and I'm getting choked up, but you get to know the term goodbye forever. Brodie, Luke, John used to say that to people, and it was his way, from what I understand, of saying to people, and just in case I never see you again, goodbye forever, but that's not necessarily what it meant. It also meant it's time for me to basically take off, be with my family for a matter of hours, for a matter of days, whatever the case may be, to go home and just basically be Jon Huber, so to speak. And with regards to saying that, he'd say it all the time to people. And a lot of references to that phrase, goodbye forever. I think Mandrake actually, he comments on that phrase as well, that Jon used to say that. But that was really, like I said, that was released by Bray Wyatt. Evil Uno made a comment. Being the elite this week, the whole topic was Brodie. So you had Alex Reynolds and John Silver made comments and put Brodie over like he was the greatest person in the world. And you know, honest to God, he basically sounds like he was in helping careers and everything else. Like, he's been around for a long time, I think 17, 18 years of the career that he's had. And then when it comes down to it, he was always willing to help out those young guys there. Seth Rollins made a comment on, I think it was Instagram as well. John Moxley did an interview with Sports Illustrated referring to the character, some of the memories he had of Jon Huber. Slam Wrestling put out an article, Jon Huber, great wrestler and even better person. So check that out there if you get a chance. I'm going to read one more as far as social media went, because I think this was important as well. So this was Eric Rowan on the passing of Brodie Lee, and the picture that was on Instagram was the two of them sitting beside each other on a bus, on an airplane. Rowan with a mean look on his face, and Harper, Jon Huber just giving the finger. So it's just him being playful, as far as a human being goes again. But when it comes down to it, this was what Eric Rowan released on social media there. Heartbroken and numb, just when I think my eyes have dried, I think of you and begin to cry again. I have lost not only a friend, but a brother. I struggled last night with many emotions and memories. Jon meant more to me than he will ever know. I remember clearly all the loops we had during our years on the road together. He would always look forward to getting home to his family. After every loop, every loop, he would say to me goodbye forever, because he would want his 1 or 2 days with them to feel like forever. So the reference there. One thing he taught me through his own actions was to be a better father and husband. He was one of a kind in everything he did. Great performer, great father, great husband, great friend, and all around amazing human. My heart goes out to everyone who was touched by his greatness. My deepest condolences to his family. Jon, this is not goodbye forever, but goodbye for now. I will see you on the other side, my brother. I love you. So that comes from Eric Rowan there. It's, really interesting with regards to Eric Rowan, because the fact is, when you listen, I think it was an interview he had done with Chris Van Vliet. And Van Vliet got into the subject of the two of them teaming. Apparently, they hate each other in the beginning. And then I guess Harper Huber grew on Eric Rowan there. So in saying that, they became best friends, best buddies, very close. But interesting to hear about Rowan not necessarily getting along with Huber. I think you got to go back and find that interview, because he goes into detail about the reasons for it. It's something to do with he liked to be alone, and Huber snored, or whatever the case may be. But it was an interesting story. I chuckled, when I heard the interview. But like I said, I think it was Chris Van Vliet. So go back and check that out. It'll be on YouTube. But Eric Rowan, I mean, arm in arm. When I think of Luke Harper back in the WWE, it was Bray Wyatt and obviously Eric Rowan beside him as well. I'm going to say this because I heard somebody mention it earlier today. But with regards to where does the Dark Order go from here, I think it was that same interview Rowan was saying he was getting into acting. He was basically happy with Harper doing what he was doing as Brodie Lee as far as the Dark Order goes. But I think once all of this is settled down, and maybe it's a couple months from now, I think if there's anybody at all to take over the Dark Order, it's got to be Eric Rowan. He is basically a free agent at this point. And if they were to continue the Dark Order, who is a better fit to me personally than Eric Rowan to basically take over the Dark Order? The size, the two of those guys were the gentle giants, so to speak. but just the pop, so to speak, from the wrestling fans around the world to see Eric Rowan unmask, or to take off that hood, and next thing you know, it's him underneath. It would just make logical sense to me. I'm not saying to have it happen this year or even the next couple of months, but I'm saying if they ever want to continue with the Exalted One, with somebody else to take the power, somebody else to take the lead, Eric Rowan to me would be the logical person to do that there. So we'll have to wait and see as far as what they do with Dark Order, but that is for another time there. Other Brodie Lee, Jon Huber news. This here, I will basically put in a nutshell that I'll tell you this. So I had the honor for about 4 months in my life back in 2018, late 2018, early 2019. So just about 2 years ago, to write for PW Torch. And I was a contributor. My job for PW Torch was to write columns with regards to New Japan Pro Wrestling Weekly overview. So it's basically taking New Japan Pro Wrestling, taking the week that was, putting it all into a column, social media, upcoming events, results, obviously Wrestle Kingdom being part of that as well, and putting it all into basically one column for the week and then continuing. So I think I'd done, timing wise as well, but I think I'd done 13 in a matter of 4 months, and just, commitments, family, real life, everything else. And I had to, send an email to Wade Keller and basically saying, thank you very much for the opportunity, but I've got to step back. And that was, like I said, about 2 years ago. Well, the reason I bring up the torch is because of this. I have got nothing but the utmost respect for Wade Keller and what has happened in the past 48 hours. Bruce Mitchell shot off his mouth with regards to stuff he shouldn't have been talking about. As a wrestling fan, I know there is boundaries. As a wrestling journalist, I'm sure those same boundaries exist for like the real kind of wrestling journalists, like a Sean Ross Sapp, or even Wade Keller himself, a Brian Alvarez, a Greg Oliver. Somebody who called out Bruce Mitchell was John Powell from Slam Wrestling. Basically wrote an article titled Matt Matters, and the article is titled, where are we here? Matt Matters, Mitchell's Brodie Lee rant was irresponsible and repugnant. And he basically went into detail about what he thought as far as Bruce Mitchell goes. Mitchell would not back down. To the point that there was statements made by, various wrestlers, such as Chris Hero got involved. Brodie Lee's wife, Jon Huber's wife, mourning right now, had to get involved with this. Point being made is this: Bruce Mitchell shot off his mouth after 30 years of being with the Torch. Wouldn't shut down, wouldn't apologize, wouldn't basically take a step back and be like, hey, wait a second, maybe I am out of line. Basically was like, oh, I'm going to be this big tough dude. Well, since then, he has been fired by the Torch. I commend Wade Keller for that. He has deactivated his Twitter, which he was so friggin' tough on. And I will tell you this, as somebody who has been a wrestling fan since the time I was about 3 years old, so 41 years now, I have never been a fan of Bruce Mitchell. I saw him at, I think it was a Starcast. It was him and Wade Keller and Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer all on the panel. And Mitchell just looked like an arrogant jackass. And that's honestly my opinion about that. So to me, I was talking to my wife about it, and I think I made a comment on my personal Twitter account as far as my wrestling name, so to speak, goes, and said, hey, it's I think basically Wade Keller and PW Torch should cut ties with you. And then sure enough, within a matter of hours, that's exactly what happened. So thoughts and prayers, with Jon Huber's wife, his kids, for having to put up with that nonsense there, but it wasn't right. And Mitchell would not back down. And basically, when you have other wrestling journalists, such as John Powell from Slam Wrestling, basically saying, hey, look, you're being wrong right now. Basically shut up and apologize, and he wouldn't do it. And I was talking to my wife tonight. I was like, worst case scenario, I guess best case scenario, the fact is, with regards to Bruce Mitchell, Wade Keller should have suspended him. and it's basically suspension and apologize and shut down on social media, and then maybe bring you back eventually. But because Mitchell wouldn't shut down, he ends up getting fired after 30 years. Statements made obviously on pwtorch.com as well as other wrestling media sites, and he deactivates his Twitter. So long story short, I've got the utmost respect for Wade Keller, always have. Ever since 2 years ago, he gave him the opportunity to write for the Torch, and again, I commend him for firing Bruce Mitchell. It's just poor taste for what he did, but I will leave it at that there. So we're 28 minutes in, about 25 minutes, I think, as far as me talking goes. After the countdown timer there, but I'm just going to run down the card for tonight. Just briefly there for anybody who's looking forward to AEW, which is basically 100% of the wrestling world right now. And if I can load Twitter properly, not Facebook here, but I've got I'll have the card up in front of me just momentarily here. Jericho on commentary, obviously. Taz made a comment: temperature check for each AEW show on the venue changes color all the time. When we are here, today is purple. He goes the little things. So obviously, again, the reference is to CWN tonight with regards to the purple banners, everything else in tribute to the late Jon Huber there. So tonight, Jericho on commentary. We got 6-man tag team dream match, which is Orange Cassidy 10 as well as Cody taking on Team Taz, which is Brian Cage, Will Hobbs, as well as Ricky Starks. I've also got Anna Jay and Taya Conte taking on Britt Baker and I always forget her name, Penelope Ford. My apologies. Another 6-man tag team match, MJF. We got looks like Santana Ortiz taking on Hangman Page, John Silver, as well as Alex Reynolds of the Dark Order. Speaking of the Dark Order, we've got Evil Uno, Stu Grayson, and Lance Archer taking on Eddie Kingston, the Butcher and the Blade with the Bunny in the corner. And it looks like what's maybe the main event tonight, the Young Bucks and Colt Boom Boom Cabana taking on Matt Hardy as well as Private Party there. So that'll be interesting there. But honestly, I'm looking forward to it. Apparently, all the matches were set up by -1, I think they call him, which is Brodie Jr. So it'll be an interesting show. I'm gonna have I'll tell you this. I'm gonna have the beer in one hand and the Kleenex box in the other hand, because it's, to me, like I had mentioned, it's synonymous with me being an Ultimate Warrior fan, but Owen Hart and obviously Eddie Guerrero. This is what it reminds me of, just all the love and support and the tributes that have come out as far as Brodie Lee, Mr. Brodie Lee, sorry, but Jon Huber goes. Promo video, 22 seconds. You can see it on CWNonline.ca, or you can check it out on Chris Jericho's YouTube. But all he said was, it's Wednesday, period. You know what that means, period. So obviously reference to the one and only Brodie Lee there. Shivani, there was talk. I'm going to bring this up. Well, I'm going to bring up one thing first. So if you're interested, they had done a rendition of Brodie Lee's theme song through two separate sources right now. I think one was SoundCloud and the other was bandcamp.com. So it's called Symphony, if I can pronounce it right, Symphony and AEW Mr. Brodie Lee Tribute. So it's about 3 minutes and 50 seconds in length. You can download the digital track and donate whatever you want to it. So myself, I think I did $5 Canadian or something like that, or $5 American, which is like $6 and something Canadian, still less than a Starbucks but it's basically you pay to download the MP3, but it's like a donation. So you can basically put whatever price you want to there. But I listened to the track several times today, and it's honestly, it's one of the greatest theme songs of 2020. You can hear Jon Huber's voice in there talking, and then all of a sudden the Dark Order theme behind it, and it just it gets you hyped up. It's one of those kind of cool themes as well, in honor of the late Jon Huber there. So yeah, check that out. Like I said, bandcamp.com or SoundCloud, but the link is through the official Twitter feed of AEW, which is AEW or AEW on TNT. One of the other things that came out, and this was courtesy of Post Wrestling there, Tony Schiavone reveals that AEW signed Brodie Lee's 8-year-old son to a contract. The picture again shows Brodie Lee and a bad, basically hockey hat there going on, but posing with his son. Like I said, a diehard Sens fan, but I can respect him being a Leafs fan better than a Buffalo Sabres fan. I'll tell you that much there. So article says on tonight's installment, AEW Dynamite, the company is paying tribute to the late Jon Huber, who wrestled under the name Brodie Lee for All Elite Wrestling, and Luke Harper for WWE. In the days since his passing, there have been tributes and stories shared from those close to him, such as Big E, Chris Harrington, Cesaro, and Ajay, John Silver, Eddie Kingston, Seth Rollins, of Being the Elite episode dedicated to his life, and tons more. After Brodie's passing, Jim Ross posted a photo of him and Jon Huber's oldest son, Brodie Jr., at the Jacksonville Jaguars game. Fellow AEW announcer Tony Schiavone discussed the passing of Huber on What Happened When podcast with Conrad Thompson. Schiavone revealed the news that the AEW signed Brodie Jr. to a contract, and he'll be joining the company when he becomes of age. Then it goes on to say he is currently 8 years old, so it's going to be a while there. But like I said, article is available through postwrestling.com. I think F4W Online as well mentioned the article there. But again, and just to finish it off, so post-show tonight for AEW's got Tony Schiavone and friends. So again, it'll be a tribute to the late Jon Huber there. But for those that don't know too much about him, wrestling career-wise, or just him in general. So Jonathan Huber, 1979, he was born December 16th. Passed away on Boxing Day. Then it goes, this all through Wikipedia, of course. Jonathan Huber was born December 16th, 1979, Rochester, New York. He attended McQuaid J. Suit high school and played lacrosse for 4 years. He also played hockey in independent youth leagues. A guy who's 6'5", man, that would be tough. I never played lacrosse, but I did play rugby back in high school. And if I had to, sit there and look at somebody who's 6'5" across me, I'd be like, yep, nope, done. Huber first got into wrestling as a backyard wrestler, performing under the ring name Huber Boy No. 2. With the likes of Colin Delaney and his real-life brother who worked as Huber Boy No. 1. Huber was eventually formally trained by Kirby Marcos and Rick Matrix in Rochester, New York, and Tony Marmaluke, you got to say it with an Italian accent, Tony Marmaluke, and made his debut for Rock City Wrestling in 2003. Working under a mask again as Huber Boy No. 2. Later that year, unmasked and began working as Brodie Lee for Rochester Pro Wrestling. Came up with the name Brodie Lee from the movie Mallrats by combining the names of actors Jason Lee and his character Brodie Bruce. Through his style and appearance, have also brought comparisons to Bruiser Brody, mistakenly thinking the ring name was derived from Bruiser. Throughout his time in RPW, which was later renamed to NWA Upstate and then again to NWA New York, Lee went to win multiple championships, including the heavyweight championship on 3 separate occasions, the tag team championship once, and the television championship once, which he proceeded to unify with the Kayfabe Dojo championship. Huber was described his original The Right Stuff gimmick and just having fun and being a cruiserweight. He also was known as Big Rig at one point of time as well, for those that don't know. But you want to talk about promotions this guy worked for: Chikara 2007 to 2012, Squared Circle Wrestling 2007 to 2012, Independent Circuit from 2008 to 2012, which also included ROH, so Ring of Honor there. Jersey All Pro Wrestling 2009 to 2011, WWE, the Wyatt Family 2012 to 2014, Intercontinental Championship, he won in 2014 to 15 there, Return of the Wyatt Family. So again, WWE career spanned a good, I want to say 4 or 5 years at least there. And then obviously the Bludgeon Brothers was at the very end of that there. He had sporadic appearances where they talk about matches with Sami Zayn, Ricochet for the NXT North American Championship. I think Mojo Rawley was part of some of those feuds as well. And then Huber made his surprise debut for All Elite Wrestling under his Brodie Lee ring name on the March 18th, 2020 episode of Dynamite, revealing himself as the Exalted One, and the rest, folks, is history. So I've never had the opportunity to get to see him in an independent show, unfortunately, but I did get to see him at least once here in London, Ontario, as part of a WB house show. So if I bring that up, it was exact date for those wondering. I think it would have been still when it was John Labatt Center, not Budweiser Gardens, but John Labatt Center. And that was July 5th, 2014. And that was the Usos beating Luke Harper and Eric Rowan to retain the tag team titles. And the other big match I remember from this night was main event, Roman Reigns beat Bray Wyatt in a street fight. And I think the end of the match, was Rowan putting Bray Wyatt through a table in the corner there, if I remember correctly, 6 years ago. But I get a pretty good memory, so I can't say too much about that. Anyways, guys, this has been, like I said, an interesting episode, just simply because of the fact I had something else planned, and I will talk about that at the end of the show, just briefly there. But what I think I'm going to do now, and I had some stories lined up as well, but I just want to say this first. I want to say happy birthday to PCO. I think it was born in 1967, I want to say. Either way, it is his birthday today, so happy birthday to PCO there. NXT is on tonight. It'll be interesting to see if they do graphics. I was thinking about this, and honestly, during the Marc Mandrake interview I'd done, with regards to Brodie Lee and how WWE Raw didn't do anything this past Monday. But I think what they might be doing is letting AEW run their course this week, as in letting them pay tribute to the man first and then doing follow-ups from there. I don't think it was anything disrespectful from this past Monday night. I was kind of in the Brian Myers kind of realm, where it's kind of like, man, that sucked. They should have done more. But in saying that, I think it came down to the fact that AEW, WB said, hey, look, guys, do your thing, pay tribute to the guy properly, because he was your wrestler, and I think that's maybe what they're going to do. I think NXT will touch on it tonight. But the fact is, when it comes down to it, I think AEW was more or less given the go-ahead by WWE to say, hey, this is your superstar. This is your star. Please play respect to him, and then we'll do our stuff later. So I think that's honestly what it came down to. AEW Games 2.0 show got moved to January 6th for any of the gamers out there. Other than that, WWE Raw finishes its highest viewership mark since November 23rd, so that was good for them. Al Fantasmo to debut new entrance theme at Wrestle Kingdom. I'll get into a little bit of Wrestle Kingdom talk at the very end of the show there. And then Damien 666's wife, Bestia 666's mother, passed away. And that was, I just read that right before the show. The show came on today. But in saying that, rest in peace, Jon Huber, Brodie Lee, Luke Harper. It's all the tributes coming out this week, and like I said, I'm gonna have a beer in one hand tonight and a Kleenex box in the other hand, and it's gonna be the way it is. And that's all I gotta say about that. But I'm gonna shut down some of these banners here. Get rid of this one. Get rid of this one. I'm going to get rid of, where is it here? This one here. And then basically, I'm going to do a share screen. I'm going to remember to turn on the audio. And I'm going to play the interview with Marc Mandrake I had the honor of doing earlier today on here on StreamYard. But Marc was an honor, a privilege to be able to interview. He goes into Brodie Lee's character, Jon Huber's character, outside of the ring, inside of the ring. And it's amazing there just to to have the opportunity to interview Marc. So, guys, I will be back at the end of the interview. The interview is about 27 minutes long. Don't worry, you will not miss AEW tonight, because I'm not going to miss AEW tonight. But here is the interview for everybody. Feel free to comment as well to let me know what you think. But, guys, enjoy the interview here. Hey, ladies and gentlemen. So it's been quite a while. I'd say probably maybe 14, 15 years since I've touched base with our guest coming up here. People knew him on the Ontario independent wrestling scene as the one and only Marc Mandrake. Moved to Florida, I want to say maybe 13 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, something like that. But I had the honor of interviewing him way back in the day alongside his sidekick Ferrari there. And it's been a while, but with the dedication, the tribute show right now to the one and only Brodie Lee, Jon Huber, I'm going to bring him in. He is the Suicide Messiah, as some people know him, the one and only Marc Mandrake. Marc, how you doing today?
Hey, Chris, good to see you. I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on.
So
I kind of wish it was under better circumstances, but hey, it's good to see you regardless.
Yeah, so I was telling Marc a couple days ago. I said when the news broke that Brodie Jon had passed away, one of the first people I thought of was Marc, and the reason for it. It was this one picture I had seen online. It was just Marc and his Ferrari, like I said, Danielle, just chilling. And who's beside them but the one and only Brodie Lee, And it's just one of those things outside of the ring that kind of like, it's the friendships, the bonds, the the relationships that you form in the wrestling business. We'll do this first. Maybe just a little bit of a backstory on you as far as the wrestling business goes here in Ontario, and then what made you move to Florida way back in the day?
Well, it's interesting with Ontario, because at the time when we started wrestling in Ontario, there really wasn't many Americans that were accepted in Ontario. It was actually difficult. I mean, to the point where at one show I was dressed up as Santa Claus, and the sports generation beat the hell out of Santa Claus, and I'm like rushing to keep the beard and everything on. So a lot of that had to do with the sports generation helping us out a lot. And then we ran OSPW in New York for when it first began. And of course, the first people we brought in was the sports generation, Eddie Osborne, Jesse Jones, Elian Habanero. At the time, it's funny, I joke about Sean Spears. When I didn't know who Sean Spears was, I knew him, but he really hadn't made an impact on the scene yet. And Eddie Osborne brought him to a show. So I'm like, well, here, kid, you can work camera and stuff like that, and he wanted to get in the ring before the show to work out. And I watched and I'm like, oh, dude, next show, you are not doing camera work. You're wrestling, and I mean, we see where he is now. He's doing wonderful in AEW, and he had a great run in WWE, as the Perfect 10. We moved down to Florida primarily. This is funny because I didn't anticipate wrestling when we moved down to Florida. I mean, I honestly thought I was done. It was like we moved down because of the weather. We moved down because we loved it down here, which is funny because, we actually are looking at possibly moving again, just not up north, actually further down south. We're actually looking at possibly moving to Mexico within the next 5 years, because I absolutely love Mexico. I'm happy there. Like you ever see someone with true happiness, which goes into, with Jon. Whenever you were around, Jon, you had true happiness, man. That guy just made everybody smile, even if it was just that goofy grin he had, or he would tell a joke. And so that's why, most of the things, you mentioned that photo, and I wasn't really sure which photo it was, because I know there's one out there that has Jon, Amanda, and then Ferrari and myself, Danielle and myself, at a show at Disney World, and that's a photo that a lot of people have gone around. There also was a photo of Jon in a tuxedo, cleanly shaven at our wedding, that went around, and I was mad because it was like, dude, don't share. It wasn't him. A fan had somehow gotten it. I don't know if it was Danielle's father or whatever, shared it. It was like, dude, I don't want pictures of my wedding out there. I mean, that's personal. But on the other hand, you know what? It showed people that Jon was not just, because that was back when he was in the Wyatt family. And it showed that he wasn't just a scruffy, dirty wife beater wearing, brute. It showed that he cleaned up and he could be a good guy. So while I was upset about it, the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, you know what? It's good that people know he's like that. But there's a lot of really cool stuff, about Jon that I hope people do realize how big of a loss, and I don't mean size-wise because he was a big boy, but how impactful of a loss this truly is, not just on a wrestling level.
Let me ask you this: do you remember the first time you ever got to meet him?
Actually, I believe it was when OSPW did some kind of invasion angle with Rock City Wrestling at the time, when they were running out of that martial arts dojo in Rochester. And I met him there. And at first I was kind of not really sure because, Jon at times can be very quiet and he sometimes had a dry sense of humor. But Danielle actually was more instrumental in that than even me meeting him backstage, Ferrari, because her and at the time, Amanda, who wrestled as Cindy Sin, were, extremely close friends. They were very good friends. And so Jon and I just kind of became friends just because Jon was with Amanda and I was with Danielle. So it just kind of made sense. And then through that, we just got closer, whether it be talking about, we rarely talk about wrestling. So, I mean, whether it be talking about like, MMA or head trauma or whatever, but that was the first show we were on. I remember a show, it was for Pier 6 Wrestling in, what was it, Brockton or whatever. I was supposed to do a cage match that night. It actually was after we moved down to Florida. They had flown me up. And that tune from Tropic Thunder that Tom Cruise does, that everybody sings, Apple Bottom Jeans or whatever. I don't know the name of it. I know how it goes. I have it playing in my head. I'm sure once I say Apple Bottom Jeans, people are going to know exactly what tune I'm talking about. At any rate, that comes on the radio upstairs in the locker room, and there's like Colin Delaney and Brodie Lee and Ferrari and a couple other people all dancing around and having a blast singing that. And that's just stuff that people didn't get to see. You'd never imagine, Jon doing anything like that because that was never what fans got to see.
So when the news broke on Boxing Day, how did you find out? Where were you?
Actually, Danielle and I were watching the Spider-Man. I think it's a far way from home. It was the second one with I think it was Tom Holland in it, the second one. And we were only like maybe half an hour in, and then all of a sudden my phone just starts vibrating and vibrating, because I had the ringer off, but it just kept on going off and blowing up. And I'm like, okay, who really wants to talk to me, on a holiday weekend, And then I looked at it and everybody's asking me if it's true that Jon had passed. And I'm like, I don't know. That like this can't, like, the first thing that went through my mind is there's no way this can be true. Because, again, we knew that he was, that something was wrong. He was taken off of TV and we knew he was sick, but we, again, as wrestlers, we even look at our own friends as being larger than life and that they can kick out of, or recover from whatever happens. And so then I checked and I found out it was true. And literally the next 48 days it was surreal, man. It was almost like a nightmare. I kept on wanting to wake up from this bad dream. Because it's not only that I lost a good friend, but being good friends with Amanda and knowing, especially little Brodie, since he was first born, my heart just broke for them because I know if I lost Danielle, I would be a mess, and vice versa. I mean, she's said the same thing. If she lost me, I can't even imagine. I mean, we've talked to her since, but again, I don't want to speak for anybody, but I can't say that that it's actually even registered with her. When you lose someone that you're that close to, I mean, even with Jon, it took me a good 3 days before I even was willing to kind of accept it. I went to medical school, which a lot of people don't know, because since I moved down here, I did go to medical school. And so right away, my brain is going to the medical part, to kind of like compartmentalize it, maybe, I don't know, to keep me sane. But then when I dropped that and I let me accept the fact that Jon had passed, it was rough, man. It just, I think of those boys. I think of Amanda, yeah, I think of myself because I lost a great friend, Danielle, she lost a great friend, people read a lot that Jon used to say goodbye forever, and he did. And it was more of like, hey, look, at least the way I took it, because he never really explained it, but I took it of, hey, if we don't ever see each other again, I want you to know that you're in my heart forever. That's how I took it. He never really explained why he said that. I'm sure he probably explained it to somebody. He never really explained it to me, and I never really asked, because I never looked at it like a morbid thing. It's in this business, you lose people so frequently that I just took it like, hey, if something ever happens and I don't see you again, whether it be something happens to me or something would happen to him, hey, you're in my heart forever. That's how I took it, and so it means a lot.
So tonight, AEW Celebration of Life for the one and only Brodie Lee, Mr. Jon Huber there. A lot of tweets, everything on social media that's come out, just about him as a professional wrestler, as well as a character of a human being, as well as a father. Nobody can say a bad thing about the guy. Maybe his sports taste, and as far as the Toronto Maple Leafs go, that's the only thing. But I mean, I never had I got to see him WWE, but I never got to see him, be Brodie Lee, so to speak. Beyond all the tributes that are happening online right now, what's your fondest memory? What are you going to take away from the character of Brodie Lee, or the person known as Jon Huber?
Oh, man. There's so many personal memories, but probably, one of the funniest things that we did was when the Wyatt family first came out with all their merch, the funny thing is the character that I played down here, was very Bray Wyatt-ish anyway. It wasn't really all that much different than what I was doing up in Canada and stuff like that. It was a very dark, and I want to say satanic character, because that's not what it was, but it was very similar to Bray Wyatt. So he got me the Follow the Buzzard shirt when it first came out. And actually, there was very few of them. It wasn't out for very long. And so I was wearing it, around Disney anyway. And people would walk up, and some people would recognize me. Way more people would recognize him, obviously. And whenever they asked me if it was Luke Harper, no, man, no, I'm Eric Rowan. But that's Bray Wyatt. And he would point to me, and fans would just look at like, huh? I thought you were taller, and I mean, fans would just watch, but I mean, for us, it was a great time, there was another time where actually he wasn't here, but he was on the phone. He was on FaceTime, and little Brodie, and we were playing UFC on the PlayStation. And I thought this kid had never played before. And this kid is like kicking my butt every match. And I'm like, dude, you said you never played before. And so at any rate, I'm like, okay, fine, I'm going to fix you. I'm picking Donald Cerrone. Yeah. So, and right away, you hear Jon on the phone, Brodie, don't, whoever Brodie was going to pick, and I can't remember, he's like, don't pick that. There's no way they're going to beat Donald Cerrone, and it was just, it was fun stuff like that. I mean, at our wedding, we did have a number of wrestlers at our wedding, And the centerpieces were almost these like a glass martini glasses that held M&Ms, and they were the centerpiece of each table. Well, you know that tradition where you tap the glass with a fork or a knife, you know, to have the bride and groom kiss. And, you know, John kept on tapping the glass, and all of a sudden it broke. So he asked another table for their centerpiece, and he would tap it, and it would break. I mean, he wasn't trying to break them, you know, it just happened. And finally, by the third one, I got up and I'm like, okay, stop. Nobody give that table any more centerpieces, you know. And he laughed. Yeah, it wasn't on purpose, but I mean, that was our wedding really was fun. I mean, we had people doing like keg stands and stuff like that at our wedding because there were so many wrestlers there. I mean, we were all having fun and letting loose. And John was in the middle of it, just like I even told Danielle, I'm like, I feel weird. We're not supposed to do this, but I want to join in with the keg stands, you know? And he just, man, he was he lit up a room whenever he walked in because of his personality. You couldn't, I mean, I remember us talking about head trauma and stuff like that. Even that conversation, which is about a very serious topic. I remember I bought him the one of Amalu's books because I'm friends with Dr. Amalu that discovered CTE. And I'm like, here, man, you're working for the Fed. I know the doctor that is in charge of things there. I want you to read this, you know, and he knew, I mean, he had done his research anyway. I mean, John was very, very intelligent. And, you know, he read it and he loved the book and stuff like that. And I'm like, you know, I'll try my best to get one autograph for you, you know, because, you know, I'm friends with Amalu, but getting a hold of him sometimes is, yeah, incredibly difficult. Obviously, he's a very busy man. But John, there's some wrestlers that you know you're going to get that phone call. You know you're going to get that phone call or text message. John was never, ever on that list. I mean, never did me or I think anyone else expect him to pass. I mean, I don't think every wrestler knows that they have that list of wrestlers that, Axel Rotten's a great example. He was on that list of people that I knew very well, that I knew I was going to get that text message or phone call that he had passed. And he did. John, though, never, because he was so healthy, you know, and so when he did, it just, you know, man, the world lost a great man. His wife lost an amazing husband and an amazing best friend. His boys lost the greatest father someone could ask for. He loved those boys so. Dude, he loved those boys so much. And if you look at those pictures with him with the boys and you see the smile on his face. And then you remember stuff like little Brodie getting up whenever John would come on TV. And he would stand up and he would do the same mannerisms and he'd point at TV and he'd say, "Daddy." And dude, I can't even imagine what it's like to be in Amanda's position, you know. I know she's been talking to Danielle a lot, you know, and stuff, and a lot of other people. I mean, God knows her phone is blowing up more than mine ever could. And I haven't texted her because, you know what, if she gets that 5 minutes of peace where she can close her eyes and just focus on herself for even 5 minutes, I don't want to disturb that because she needs that. But it hurts, man. I mean, I lost a very close friend. A lot of people lost a very close friend, and there's fans that have never met him that are sitting here that one dirt sheet writer wrote like a really crappy article for the Torch, and they're the reason that dude's fired, because they didn't even know Jon on a personal level, and they stood up for him because they knew that was wrong. And I mean, all of us as wrestlers stood up for him because we knew it was wrong as well. If you remember Jon as anything, man, I pointed this out to Danielle. I never, ever, ever thought that I would see on the front page of CNN one of my close friends passing. And I know a lot of people, man. I mean, between film and music and stuff like that, I know a lot of people. Never once did I expect to see that. And then when I seen it, it was like, what I'm trying not to swear, but I mean, what the F, is the best way for me to put it. Now that it's kicking in though, yeah, like it crying on and off because like you mentioned the AEW show tonight. I'm going to record it. I'm going to watch it at some point, but I don't think I can watch that tonight. I don't think, I think I'm going to be crying the whole time.
Yeah. It's touching tribute by AEW to do what they're doing tonight. I'll tell you that. It's going to be a lot of closure for a lot of wrestling fans who need it right now. I'll tell you this. I tuned into Monday Night Raw this past Monday. They didn't do him justice at all. So when it comes down to tonight, I know it's, he, as a human being, and like I said, the stories coming out on Twitter, your personal stories there as well. I mean, he was just a remarkable man who passed away way before he should have. In saying that, I want to thank you for taking this time to share your stories, share your memories of Jon Huber, aka Brodie Lee. It was interesting yesterday to see what happened with the Torch, and I commend Wade Keller for that, for doing what he did, and it wasn't right. But I mean, it is what it is, and there are garbage journalists out there. Mark, I know you're on Facebook as well as Twitter and Instagram. The Suicide Messiah name was the easiest way to put and you guys, you can see this scrolling across the bottom of the screen there. But if you go on Facebook, type in either Marc Mandrake or the Suicide Messiah, you'll be able to see his pages up on there. But are you're pretty active on social media? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I try to be as much as I can. Honestly, the Suicide Messiah Facebook page is the best one because if you add me by Marc Mandrake, unless I know you personally, I'm not going to add you. No offense. It's just that's primarily for friends and family. The Suicide Messiah page, though, I'm still very active. If people send me a message, if people comment, I will comment back, message back, what have you. Twitter, honestly, Twitter, it's a mixed bag depending on how you feel about politics, because I do end up, I mean, a lot of that is politics, especially in Florida, are messed up, man. and it comes out on my Twitter. And Instagram, yeah, I'm active. A lot of it, though, is especially because UFC was running every week, and I'm a huge UFC fan. It was just posting the cards and stuff like that. But when COVID lifts and we get out and do more stuff and go more places, more pictures will be uploaded to Instagram. So I try my best to be as active as I can. It's just, I don't go anywhere. With COVID and the quarantine and stuff like that, I don't go anywhere. Because in Florida, some people wear face masks, some people don't. And I've had pneumonia twice. As a matter of fact, once I checked out of the hospital and went up to Canada to wrestle and then checked back into the hospital. And there was somebody, and I can't remember who it was, but it was somebody that would bash me online all the time. And I'm like, hey, make sure when you slam me online that you mention that I checked out of the hospital with pneumonia to wrestle this match just to go back to the hospital. Make sure you say that before you trash me. Kid never trash me again. But yeah, I try to be as active as I can. And sometimes, like everybody, I need a kick in the butt sometimes, so if people message me, yes, I definitely will interact.
So once again, thank you very much for the time. My thoughts and prayers are with both of you, as well as Danielle, the wrestling community down there in Florida. It's going to be a tough night to watch. I mean, a lot of tears are going to be shed, but like I said, it's be good closure for the internet wrestling community. Again, once again, Marc Mandrake, thank you very much for taking the time to do the interview. And thoughts, prayers, and well wishes are with you guys down there in Florida.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. It was good seeing you again. Thank you very much. And you have a wonderful day, okay?
You too, man. All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So, guys, that was my interview earlier today with the one and only Marc Mandrake. Again, it's still hitting that, Jon Huber has passed away on Boxing Day. Mark and I, after the interview had aired, it's in, I 100% agree with the fact is I just want to wake up and realize this is the bad dream, and it never took place, and it sucks. And it sucks for a lot of people, and I'm saying this as a wrestling fan, you know what I mean? And obviously, Brodie Lee, Jon Huber touched a lot of people in a lot of different ways, professionally, personally, and he just sounds like if we could be half of the character that he was inside and outside of the ring, we'd be good people easily. I just want to say this before I go into CWN news here, but on the same day, and this is how it started to end, I remember saying to myself, you know what, I'm going to take a break from doing website work for a couple of days, Christmas, everything else. And then all of a sudden I go and see Danny Hodge passes away. So WWE.com goes and says, WWE is saddened to learn that Danny Hodge passed away today at the age of 88. Hodge will be remembered as a true trailblazer and the only man to ever win national titles in both wrestling and boxing. Oklahoma native's highly decorated career included recognition as a three-time NCAA champion, Olympic silver medalist, national Golden Gloves heavyweight champion, 8-time NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion, consummate competitor in the ring, WB Hall of Famer Bret Hart referred to Hodge as one of the greatest wrestlers in pro wrestling or amateur wrestling there's ever been. Hodge returned for 2 appearances on Raw, 2005, 2012. And again, all the tributes that went out to him that day, absolutely amazing as well. So I'd seen that and went to CWNonline.ca and posted that article courtesy of WWE.com. And the next thing you know, the end of the night goes, and I'm on YouTube of all places, and I see the news break from a gentleman named Harold Kennedy. People know him as New Scott. And, I see that he had posted with regards to Jon Huber passing away at 41 years old. And I said that this can't be right. And I go, and then, that trickle effect of website to website. And it's, it is what it is. But Boxing Day was a tough day as far as wrestling went. And again, my thoughts, prayers, family, friends, fans of Jon Huber, Brodie Lee, Luke Harper, as well as Danny Hodge that day as well. Guys, as far as CWN goes, my goal was for episode 20 was to do a prediction show for 2021, as well as a recap show for the year 2020. So year review, so to speak. That obviously has not taken place. I'm going to try for next week, though. So I'm going to see if I can try to get one out there for next week. Might not be as detailed as the one I had originally planned, but I still want to do something, as far as some of the great stuff that did happen in 2020. Edge returning, obviously, being probably number one to me there. But amongst everything that was bad, there was some good moments in wrestling, as well as mixed martial arts in 2020, as well as I want to do an outlook towards 2021 as far as, what I think is going to happen and where things are going to go and this and that. So I'm going to aim for next week. As far as New Japan Pro Wrestling goes, Wrestle Kingdom 15 taking place January 4th and 5th. I want to do prediction show, obviously, for that. I might do a bonus episode because if I look at the calendar here, we're at December 30th, which would put our next show either the 6th, 7th, or 8th of January, and well past New Japan Pro Wrestling Wrestle Kingdom. So I might do a bonus show this coming weekend, or might do one on Monday, but I will get something out there as far as New Japan Pro Wrestling goes. It's probably a double prediction show, and then probably a double recap show as well. But look for news on CWNonline.ca to take place there as far as New Japan Pro Wrestling goes. As far as the website itself goes, CWNonline.ca, major changes, that's all I can say, are coming next year. And when I say next year, I'm talking a matter of days. I have thought about it. I have talked about it with certain people, and CWN will undergo some changing, and it's going to be for the better. You might not see the same sort of 300 articles get reposted, so to speak. Maybe it's going to closer to 50 to 100 articles in a given month. But the goal is to make CWNonline.ca into a reputable website with 100% original content. So I'm going to leave it at that. It's in the works right now. I know where my mindset's going, where the direction I want to go is. And I've talked to some of the right people who are on board. It's just a matter of being passionate. But I do want to make CWNonline.ca 100% original. So no more aggregating, no more saying, hey, this article exists over here. My goal is to make it 100% original content. And I'll leave it at that for now there. Guys, this has been episode 20 of CWN Weekly. As always, you can check out the show. Feedback at CWNonline.ca. Let me know what you thought of this show. Let me memories, anything like that of Jon Huber, Brodie Lee, Luke Harper, Danny Hodge, the week that was as far as wrestling goes. Let me know of your ideas, as far as CWNonline.ca changing into original website and some of the stuff that you want to see on there. But like I said, feedback at CWNonline.ca is the best way to get in touch with the website there. And as always, guys, check me out at Chris Maloney CWN. That is on Twitter, Instagram, as well as Reddit. Had maybe a few choice words for Bruce Mitchell last night, but you know what? He deserved it. He's since deactivated his Twitter account. But that is my personal account as far as anything wrestling goes. So if I want to shoot off my mouth, I'm going to do it through at Chris Maloney CWN. And when I say shoot off my mouth, I just mean being a wrestling fan. But I keep that separate from the CWN account. So CWN Online as far as Twitter goes. And then that's different from my personal account that has to do with my family and all this sort of stuff as well. But at Chris Maloney CWN, guys, it's been a different show. It's where are we here? About 7:13 Eastern Standard Time, about 45 minutes until AEW tribute to the one and only Jon Huber, Brodie Lee takes place, celebration of life. So I'm going to get some food into me. I'm going to find that Kleenex box. I'm going to find that beer in the fridge, and I'm going to get it all set for AEW Dynamite celebration of life for Brodie Lee tonight. It's been a tough week. It's been a tough couple days. I think a lot of us are going to be crying together tonight, but enjoy the show for what it is, and it's AEW's way of paying respect towards one of their performers there. So, guys, until next show, which is 21, but like I said, there might be a bonus episode. We'll have to wait and see, but keep your eyes posted. CWNonline.ca, and yeah, I guess that is it. So in the touching words of the one and only Brodie Lee, Jon Huber, goodbye forever.